This is Justin Case of American Newscape, joining our friend and mentor, Joyce Rockwood, for some insight on how she teaches healing from the inside out. Joyce joins us to share another natural health solution. Today, colon health and happiness. Hello, Joyce.
Hello, Justin. I'm so excited to be back and talk about this topic today.
Oh, cool. So are we. Getting right to it, please enlighten us. What is constipation?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Well, we're asking you.
You're asking me. I'm going to tell you what I define it as after I tell you about some of the godfathers and their definition of constipation. So, the Latin word, it comes from a Latin word, constipatus or constipatus, depending on where you like to put the emphasis, which means to press or to pack together, to cram, to crowd. Right there, you already know what's going on in the intestine. Hippocrates says, and he's the father of naturopathic medicine, for those of you who might not know, he says that constipation, the mother of all diseases. Why do they always put it on the woman?
But
and go ahead.
So you're talking in terms of those philosophers. So it would have been constipatus maximus, correct?
Yeah. Dealing with the glutamus maximus.
There you go.
And then, if you want to take a little bit more of a generic explanation or definition, you might say that there's difficulty in emptying the bowels. Some people would say, oh, I'm constipated because I'm having difficulty in going to the bathroom. Some people think that if they're skipping days, that's the definition of constipation. Kramer from Seinfeld would say, I've got no peristalsis.
Oh, my gosh.
There was an episode. I mean,
Well,
Seinfeld just makes his way into everything.
other than Seinfeld, what are some of the symptoms that we're going to experience of constipation? Some of the subtle symptoms.
Well, before we go into the symptoms, I just want to say how I define it.
Okay.
And that's because I agree with some of my forefathers. Dr. Robert Sorge, and who was a very famous naturopathic doctor, PhD, he said, there's an article on this. I share it with all of my clients. It's very eye-opening. The title of the article is, If You're Not Having 3 Bowel Movements a Day, got news for you. That's my input. You're constipated. And when I tell that to my clients, their eyes literally light up, because a lot of my clients don't even have 1 bowel movement a day, and they think that's okay. And so, answering your next question, some of the symptoms of not having bowel movements regularly and being constipated, no matter what your definition of that is there are minor issues. We'll talk about the minor ones first, and then the major issues. So if you're not having bowel movements regularly, and just to explain that title of that article, I tell my clients they need to be having 1 bowel movement every single day for every single meal they eat, plus another 1 or 2 movements, which for most people is 3 meals a day, 3 BMs, and then another 1 or 2, which would be anywhere from 3 to 5 movements a day.
Wow.
That's a healthy bowel. Does that shock you?
Well, something to aspire to, I guess.
Exactly. And so the minor symptoms of constipation would be things that most people could easily fill in the blank with: gas, bloating, gut distension, intestinal pain, back pain. I was just speaking with a woman yesterday. She's been having these minor issues for years, and she's pointing to the left side of her rib cage in her gut, that there's always pain there, like a gas pain. She's had it looked at. And so I was like, it's time to take care of this, because, it's easy to put these things to the back burner when they don't feel life-threatening. But when your body's giving you these little alerts, it's letting you know that something's going on and it's now time. Headaches and migraines are also what we can categorize as minor issues. Brain fog, very common. Skin issues, poor sleep, mood swings. And then if we want to talk about the more serious issues, we're going to look at things that do connect with mental health because of the gut-brain connection, no denying that. We would have depression, we'd have anxiety, we'd have things that are more physical as well, like infections, chronic fatigue, poor immunity, autoimmune disease, arthritis, heart disease, asthma, Lyme, diabetes, tumors, and cancer. No joke.
Wow. Oh, there I said wow again. How does Lyme disease play into this?
Here's the thing, my forefathers, Sorge, Professor Arnold Ehret, if any of you want to check out a really great book, Professor Arnold Ehret, Ehret, he wrote some really amazing books. And he believed in this philosophy and this formula that vitality equals pressure or power minus obstruction. And so, if we're talking about anything going on in the body, a diagnosis, Lyme disease, asthma, things that people might think it's very strange to associate with constipation, the truth of the matter is there's only one disease, and that is the backup of the bowel. And so when that wastebasket is not eliminating efficiently, it is the root of all evil. And it will back up all of the other systems in the body from performing at optimum level. It's just like if you had garbage in your kitchen, lots of old waste from dinners and lunches and food scraps and things like that. After a day, it's not a big deal. But after 5 days, especially in the intense heat of the summer, that garbage begins to putrefy. And at some point, we know it is time to take out the garbage because the kitchen stinks. The living room starts to stink. It starts to permeate the house. And so, if we think about the bowel of the human body and that cavity not eliminating efficiently, that matter becomes very toxic and septic to the body. And it just infiltrates all of the cells and all of the systems, no matter what they are. And for some people, it's certain things that they might be more predisposed to than others. That's why some people have skin issues and some people have the headaches and some people have diarrhea and Crohn's. It's just different symptomatically, but it's all the same problem. It all comes back to the bowel. And I like to tell my clients, you have the right to remain regular.
Well, okay, despite that, what are some of the easiest ways to reverse constipation?
Well, let's talk about the three pillars. I'll break it down very simply for those of you listening who might be dealing with this very debilitating and frustrating issue. I have a 3-pillar process called healing from the inside out. And in that process, it's nourish, detoxify, and rejuvenate. So I'll give you a tip from each of those pillars. So if we're talking about reversing constipation, the first one I would recommend is to nourish the body with more fresh, raw, whole fruits and vegetables. Now, some of the people that are listening to this might be getting very frustrated as I share that as a tip or a technique, because a lot of people who are severely constipated can't eat the fresh raw foods because they're too cleansing in their body. They shake, rattle, and roll the poisons dramatically and uncomfortably, and then the bowels don't actually work because they're too shut down, and then they feel worse because now they've loosened up a lot of poisons and gas that just is now part of the bloodstream and a re-experience. So if that's you, then that's a good cause of action for us to have a personal conversation. But typically adding more fresh fruits and vegetables to the diet in proper combination, because we're going to talk about food combining as well, is one of the easiest ways to open up the bowel with those fibers that trigger the peristaltic motion. And also vegetable juices. We've talked about the power and the potency and the healing potential of drinking vegetable juices. And in this case, nothing beats them because they act like soap in the body, loosening up that matter that is turned into very impacted matter. Remember, we were talking earlier about like being crammed and crowded, so that it can loosen up and then the peristaltic motion can activate and then you can start having movements again. And just really quickly, as a sort of a sidebar, I was talking earlier about one of the symptoms that's severe, which could be arthritis when the bowels aren't working. I just met a woman yesterday and she gave me her own testimonial because she had very arthritic hands. And she said, I started juicing, Joyce, and you're right. It was amazing how my pain in my fingers went away. I've got to get my juicer going again. So the second pillar is all about detoxifying the body. That's where we bring in the washing out of the matter that hasn't left the system organically through colon hydrotherapy, gravity-based colon hydrotherapy specifically, and enemas that you can do at home. Because if the body's ability to create peristaltic motion is softened or deadened and it's not happening, we need to do something to support the body in alleviating that matter ASAP. And then the third suggestion I would make would be around rejuvenating. And one of the other things that I support my clients with, or I could support anyone listening to this broadcast with, would be to do castor oil therapy. And that's so easy. You're literally just putting castor oil from the rib cage, the bottom of the rib cage, all the way down to the pubic bone. And then you're putting some muslin over the skin and then putting a heating pad on top of that. The reason why I love castor oil packs for anyone listening or with my clients is because that oil creates a very cathartic response in the body, and it creates motion in the intestine, and it's very healthy as well and very cleansing for the liver. So those would be my top 3 suggestions for addressing constipation naturally.
Wow, it's remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. Do you have any parting thoughts for us today, Joyce?
Yes, I like to make sure that people have tools to get started right away. So below this video, there is going to be a download for you, totally free, to get started with learning more about proper food combining, because that's a huge part of reducing that gas and reducing that pressure and reducing the obstruction so you can elevate your power. So that's for you there. And I would also just say that if you'll have me back, I would love to do another segment with you about the FAQs and the benefits of the most powerful and efficient way to address and reverse constipation, which would be talking about gravity-based colon hydrotherapy.
Well, I think we need to have you back, and we need to delve a little deeper into that, so to speak. This has been
Awesome.
this has been Justin Case and Joyce Rockwood sharing a glimpse into the matters of remaining regular. Thanks for joining us. Remember, free gifts, additional information, and links are provided in the videos read more. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel and joining Joyce in her journey to help get a better regular lifestyle.